Hello everybody, welcome to the Grim Reports. Oh, Grim Case Files. We got an interesting one, guys. Well, we're going to Greece. That's the phone call we got. Yeah. Greek mythology. Very fun, but yeah, not really, no. After the whole issue in France, we headed off to Greece. Not a very far flight. No stop home. Nothing. Straight to Greece from France. I hated that idea. And I still hate that idea. I don't want that idea to continue going from one place to the next without a stop home. So what we did was, like I said, we went straight to Greece. Me, Sarah, and Jim went to Greece. Now, maybe seeming odd, but the phone call we got was rather odd itself. See, this Greek myth is called the Scylla, Scylla. Now, according to Greek mythology, Scylla was the daughter of Phorkys and Ketos, once a beautiful nymph that the god Poseidon longed for. The jealous Aphrodite, Poseidon's partner, turned her into a monster. Poisoning her bathing water, she had a body of a fish, a female upper torso, and a dog's head protruding from her neck. Kind of a creepy creature. She haunted the rocks of the narrow strait, opposite of the whirlpool of another terrible monster, Cerberus. But that one's not here nor there. In the Odyssey, Ulysses' ship passed through the strait after long, losing 6 of his men, who were eaten alive by the monster. Scylla was a sea monster who haunted the rocks of the narrow strait opposite the whirlpool. Ships who sailed too close to her rocks would lose 6 men. Her ravenous, darting heads. Homer describes Scylla, another way of saying it, as Kylla, as a creature with 12 dangling feet, 6 long necks, and girlish heads, lined with a triple row of sharp teeth. Her voice was like the yelping of dogs. This description of Scylla is probably derived from the imaginary words associated with her name, namely hermit crab. Greek skylarks, dogs, and dog sharks, skylac, and Tyrind Skylo. In the classic art, she was depicted as a fish-tailed sea goddess with the cluster of canines, 4 parts surrounding her waist. According to her late classical writers, she was once a beautiful nymph loved by the sea god Glaucus. But her jealous rival, which was Circe, employed magic to transform her into a monster. Older poets, however, embellished Scylla as simply a monster born in a monstrous family. Now, you see, we don't know which is true. But all we know is on the strait, people have been going missing. The same strait she was supposed to be guarding. What brought this up after so many years again? Only God knows. So, they said it was Scylla. I'll call her Scylla for this one. I'm not gonna butcher the name over and over again. Sky. We'll just call her Sky. for the sake of saving a lot of damn headaches. And me butchering the name over and over and over again. Because I tend to do that. God help me, I'm bad at words. Very bad at words. That's why I do this and that. Story time. So, we got on a boat. We chartered a boat with this company who was sending us who was hired to get rid of this thing. But first, they wanted to know if the thing existed. Now, we got on this small, well, not a small rickety boat. It was about 20 to 18 footer. We had I'm not even gonna give numbers. We had over 6 men. Okay, over 6 men. Every one of them armed quite well. With guns. I thought we were just sent there to investigate. I didn't think we were sent there to kill this thing. But this is what the captain said, that he wasn't going nowhere near that without every one of his men being armed. Couldn't blame him, because this captain had lost 12 men, over 12 men, because he went past this strait over a half a dozen times. Tourists, as well as other things. This is a tourist vessel. It's a big ship, put it this way. Not a cruise ship, just a big ship. I think it's big. It looked big to me. So we got near the strait. We were about to go past into the strait. So we did. We got a little close to the rocks, purposely done, of course. And she came out of nowhere. Now I don't know what to call her. I'm just gonna do this and tell you that she was a monstrous creature. I would say that. Kind of Medusa-esque, but didn't turn you to stone when she looked at you. She had scales on her face and a giant fin, claws for hands. She got aboard the ship, and these dogs came up out of the water, and they started killing anybody who shot at them. At least 6 were murdered, were killed, and dragged underwater. While she killed at least 3 more. That with all this commotion, when one of these dogs went for me, I quickly pulled out my kukri and I cut its head off. Jim was shooting, put it this way, he knocked one of the guys, before he was eating, Jim that put up an AK, I do believe, and started shooting one of the dogs who killed it. Sarah, on the other hand, pulled out a pistol and started shooting. They shot one of the other dogs that went for her. While the others just leapt overboard and killed as with the men. She soon turned her attention towards me. As I ran close to her, she cut me across the chest. As I cut, a pretty good incision in her arm. She grabbed it. Jim and Sarah turned their guns on her, and the other crew members that were still alive did the same. She quickly swiped her tail at the first person who came towards her and dragged them under with her. Needless to say, the captain was pissed. He was not a fan of this. he lost about 7 men. 7 or 8 men. We kind of figured out that, I figured that she would leave at least a blood trail because I cut her pretty deep. Cooker is not known for being too terribly sharp, but it will cut a deep gash in your arm if you chop it right. We weren't about to let this girl go. Now, we came here not to hunt her, but to find her. Me and the captain and Sarah and Jim weren't about to let these men die in vain. We figured we'd go down there into this cave that we found, that he figured that's where she would live. Sea goddess or not, the dog's got to come up for air. We went in this. So just as we got close to the docks, close to the cave, Captain tossed me, Jim, and one of his crew members scuba gear. It's as close as we were going to get to the rocks in that cave with the boat. Captain said he'd stay aboard and watch Sarah and keep her eye on the wounded. I was okay with this. Jim had an AK and had a couple of clips, and so did the other crew member. So did the captain's first mate. I think his name was Eric. I called him Eric. I don't know what his real name was. He's Greek. I don't know his name. We no sooner got into the water that a wave hit the ship and knocked it further away from the cave. The recourse pushed the backlash from the wave, knocked us deeper into the cave. We swam for what it was about underwater for about over a good 30 minutes. My watch had stopped at this point, because I was more than 100 meters underwater. We came up and into a cave, an opening. Looked like there was like a small little bank inside the cave. We could hear screams of what was left of the living crew that she hadn't murdered before they got drugged underwater. One was still in the corner. It was a young one. He could be no more than 15, 16 years old. 18 at the most. He was bleeding, but he wasn't dead. Eric walked over to him quietly and took off his walked over to him quietly and started pulled out a med kit out of his bag and started wrapping his wounds. And then Jim looked around and made sure no one was watching. We had to search for any more living crewmates before we would leave, because there was an exit of this cave further deeper in that led to shore. Eric had seen it on our little excursion on the other side. We no sooner got deeper into the cave when we heard her and some of the dogs. Before one of them barked, Jim quickly pulled it out of his pit, quickly pulled the AK, pointed the AK at it and shot it a couple of times. Of course, the shots rang out and woke everything in the cave up. A couple more of the dogs came out. I don't know where the hell they were coming from. Came at us, and Eric killed one, and I cut off the head of the other. We were not going to play with this creature. We weren't going to go hunting for her. We sure as hell wasn't going to let her kill us. She came out as soon as she heard one of them yelp, the last of her dogs yelp. She quickly rose out of the water and came at us. Eric and Jim were shooting at her shooting at her on each side as I ran towards her. I didn't have a pistol. I just had my kukri, and I wasn't about to. I'm a horrible aim. Put it that way. With a gun. Just as soon as she was about to raise her hand towards Eric to claw him in the face, I quickly cut her arm off. She looked at me, and I tried to sweep at the other one. Then Jim shot her in the head with this pistol. I wasn't about to let this end without cutting her head off. We're going to need proof, and I don't think a hand would prove anything. So the next day, proving to the authorities that we had the head, we killed this thing. I tossed the head on the desk of the man who hired us to do this job. He looked at it, looked at me, and started clapping. He said, I have 2 jobs. 2 more jobs for you. I said, that's fine. As long as we get paid.